Hey guys, this is Trevor Probant. This is the Land Investing Dirt Road to Wealth podcast. Today we have on a guest, Mr. Brent Bowers. I think he's been asking to be on the show for about a year and a half now. So, those that do not know Brent, he is a land guy. He's also been a house guy, military veteran. Used to be in Colorado, is now living in sunny Florida. Has done just about everything in the real estate space. Like I said, houses, commercial, land, one way or other. He is the main jefe at Land Sharks with Wholesaling Inc. He has done just about everything. And so we're going to chop it up and talk a little bit about kind of the higher level stuff, right? And where we think this whole niche is going. So, Brent, introduce yourself real quick, where you're from, wife, kiddos, what's going on, things like that, and then we're going to dive into it.
Hey, Trevor, thanks for having me. It's about dadgum time that you get on here. So I think, I don't know, maybe you thought I was going to talk Spanish or something. So I'll only speak English today. But yeah, I'm from Okeechobee, Florida. It's, our biggest producer of income is feeder calves, actually, but cattle, and I was in the military, always away, always gone. Family life was struggling because I was preparing for that third combat deployment. I'd already had one divorce. I didn't want to see that again. And, I feel like history repeats itself. And I had to find a way how to make roughly, $5,000-$6,000 a month. Really, I was only making $4,500 a month at the time in 2016. And I heard a podcast talking about land investing, and this guy's doubling his money and tripling his money. And I didn't really believe that was possible, but I put it to the test immediately. And I know one thing about the herd, they eventually get slaughtered. So I wanted to be the opposite of what everyone else was talking about. So here we are today, 9 years later. It's just been truly incredible. Made a bunch of mistakes, though. Holy cow. We could probably just have days worth of content on mistakes that I've made. And I think that's part of it, though. You just got to expect like things are going to happen, but there's always a way you can turn it around. I never lost money on a piece of dirt.
Yeah. Well, Brent, let's go back. Okay. So you were in which branch of the military, and then where were you stationed whenever you heard about land?
Yeah, I was in Fort Carson, Colorado, Colorado Springs, and I was in the Army, and I had just become a second lieutenant. I was enlisted before Army sent me to college to be an officer, so I had a whole new set of challenges and things going on, and yeah, it's a good time. Good time.
So okay, and you're not allowed to have phones. Are you allowed to have phones, internet, all that stuff during the workday, right? Like, and the reason we're asking this is because I want people to understand everyone is busy, but that's not an excuse, right? Like, there's still ways if you want to bad enough. And so that's why I'm going to have Brent kind of go back from the beginning, because I did the same thing. I worked basically two jobs, right, to really get this thing taken off. So, Brent, like, how did you get actually started, right? Like, who did you hear on a podcast, right, talking about dirt, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's go all the way back, and then we're going to jump all the way freaking forward and talk about what's going on today. But I want people that maybe haven't or have not having the success they're wanting right now, but they're still working another job. I want people to understand what it takes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was allowed to have a cell phone, and there was certain times when I couldn't have it, like when we were doing field operations, because it was battlefield simulation. Your cell phone doesn't work in the valleys of Afghanistan. Some of them do, I guess, but so I had a government computer and all that. I was in a leadership position, but it was very demanding, very stressful. But I also, as an Army officer, as a military officer, you're not supposed to have a business outside of the military.
Gotcha.
So I was keeping it on the down low. I really was. And that was one of my biggest mistakes. I could have had a ton of lenders right off the bat. But I kind of separated those things. I kept it private. I was almost like a, in disguise or a spy type thing. I couldn't let people know about what my outside life looked like. And that was land investing. So yeah, I could, and I wasn't the regular soldier. I had access to a computer, so there were some advantages that I had, but also there was a lot of responsibilities. I was, getting on base at 6 a.m. in the morning. That's when we started PT, and I'd usually get home about 7 p.m. at night. So that's about a 13-hour day away from home. You know, my wife, the newborn, wouldn't be awake when I left in the morning, and he'd be put down to bed by the time I got home. So I wasn't seeing my son at all, hardly, unless it was a weekend. So yeah, there's a lot of responsibilities. There wasn't much money either. You know, I was putting this stuff on credit cards. When I mean this stuff, mail. I've been mailing for a long time, and I was putting it on Amex and Capital One, and I had debt from my rental property. So there was a lot of things against me, but I had one thing going for me that I didn't realize it at the time was I had a huge why, and that was to get the heck out of the military.
Yep. And that's really what it's not the how, it's the why, right? Because there's a million ways to make money in in any business, right? Like there's a million different ways to make money, especially with the internet, especially to be able to do it virtually, you know, whatever that is, right?
You're not one of those guys that has a tow account on OnlyFans, are you? You talking about the internet making money?
That's for me to know. That's for me to know and you to wonder about. I don't have cool enough feet. But you know, it's one of those deals where there's so many ways to make money, and there's so many ways to hear about, even in real estate, right? Whether you're a private lender, whether you're a flipper, whether you're a wholesaler, whatever that is, a real estate agent, whatever that is, but that why has to be there, right? Just because you hear something cool on a podcast, you're like, oh my gosh, well, that sounds like, yeah, Trevor did a forced appreciation and made $1.7 million. I should do that now. Yeah. And then you're like, I have no idea what the hell that is, right? Yeah. And then it starts getting hard, and then you quit because that why is not big enough, right?
Yeah. Motivation goes away really quickly.
Really quickly. It's when you have to. It's when you have the have tos, and you have to show up, and you have to get it done for you and your family. That's when the magic happens, right? So who did you hear about? Who did you hear on whatever podcast about land?
Yeah, his name was Mark Podolsky. And I made a fortune just by him inspiring me to hear that. It's kind of like this podcast, you know, there's so much pure gold on here, but you got to go out and take the action. You got to get willing to be able, get used to getting kicked in the teeth, honestly, and getting very uncomfortable. But here's the thing, that motivation will fail here, you know, very shortly after too, especially if, you know, we can only take so much rejection and so much failure until we quit. But if you have a system that constantly puts you out there every day, it's like going to the gym. The first week you're motivated. Second week you're sore as heck. Third week you quit, unless you have a system or a habit that just keeps you going there.
And I'll give my flowers to Mark Podolsky too, because even though my family had been doing like subdivides, forced appreciation since late 80s, early 90s, right? I remember listening to him in his very first podcast with Jaron, like his very first partner. Yes.
Where's that guy at now?
I have no idea. I guess he's hanging out in San Diego. I don't know.
That's the same one I heard. Holy cow.
Anyway, and so, but I remember in 2009, 2010, I mean, like, you know, driving across, and I was working in the oil fields in North Dakota. And I'll never forget this deal because I'm driving across this. They had a giant across the Missouri River, south of Williston, North Dakota, and driving across this deal in the middle of the wintertime, going to some place I was going to work, and it was negative 15 degrees outside. And I was like, if these dudes can do it, I can do it. Right? Like, but I never thought about it on the micro scale. And then that's where I talked to my dad, and he's like, shit, they've been doing owner financing stuff in way West Texas since dirt was new. He's like, I mean, that's what you want to do. Go for it.
Oldest business. This is by far the oldest business out there. Maybe the second oldest. I don't know. But
yeah. Well, since we could, that's how banking started, right? Was through owner financing of dirt. The value of the dirt has gone up higher than what people could pay for, right? That's the whole impetus of banking in America, right? You got business banking, but also the land was the biggest piece of that. Right? Yeah. Which started with the owner financing. Anybody that thinks the owner financing dirt is new, it's about the oldest thing that you could possibly have, right? Yeah. This side of you know, having a land grant from the king of Spain, you know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So anyway, so you heard it, you took your action, you started doing deals, sending letters, just like we all heard back in the day, right? So you're very successful with that. What is your kind of model and your plan, right? Because the whole reason I came to you, Brent, and this is a deal, I buy a course every single year.
Yeah, me
Every
too.
single year, whether I need to or not. I buy house courses, I buy whatever courses every single year because there's always something that I can learn from someone.
I bought 4 courses in the last 8 months. I
Yeah.
think I have a problem, honestly.
And you're already successful, right? That's the difference, though. When you have a course on the wall, in your bookcase that's still in the saran wrap, like that's not helping you. But okay, I came to you because one, it was another land course. I liked your outlook on the stuff. I was like, hey man, there's another group that I can be a part of, right? Paying for proximity.
Yeah.
Let's just call it what it is, right? But like, what is your impetus? Because whenever I came to you, it was all about owner carry, right?
Yeah.
Offering owner financing, finding good quality product, not the little bitty rinky dink places, the better quality product, right? And offering owner financing. Is that still what you do as far as your land business, the day-to-day stuff, Brent?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you came into the Land Sharks community, which I was stoked to have you because you told me, I remember our first conversation about some of the projects you were working on. I was like, this is freaking cool. Like you also opened my mind up too. And I've learned so much from our Land Sharks community members as well. Like there's about a million different ways I feel like to make money in land. And I'm still going to learn other ways. I'm sure probably next week or the week after, but when you came in, I think I was still, kind of doing the lower end parcels. I buy them for 1,000, sell them for 12,000. And I got to give this credit to our Land Sharks community members. When I started seeing them do these deals and they're netting 100,000, 150,000, 400,000, and seeing the deals 1.7 million that you're netting, like Chris Miles. Chris Meeks in Denver did like $1 million on his first land deal. He scared the heck out of me.
Ruin the shit out of yourself right there.
It broke my brain because I was like, brother, let's figure out how to get you a hard money lender. Oh, by the way, he also got a free house out of the deal. And this guy, shout out to Chris Meeks. I did a podcast with him on the Wholesaling Inc. podcast. You should interview him as well, Trevor.
Yeah, no, for sure. Absolutely.
This guy, he bought a Lamborghini, and I'm not flashy. Like I don't have a ring on, a watch on, and I think that's stupid when people start buying the Rolexes and the yachts and crap. So Chris buys a Lamborghini, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. But then I read more, and this guy's like using his like he picked up a kid that was getting bullied at school and then dropped him off the next day. You think that kid's getting bullied anymore?
Yeah.
So it's like he's got the Lambo, but he's using it for cool stuff.
Yep.
But it's like, so going back to my story though, I was doing the cheaper lots and showing people how to sell or finance it because I loved the passive income. That's what allowed me to get out of the military and so much free time. And guess what? I had to fill that free time. So that's why the Land Sharks was created. Because I was going out to coffee every day. I was so caffeinated. People wanting to buy me a coffee to learn what I was doing. Then
there's only so many times you can go to the gym, and there's only so many things like this, right? And that's the bad thing about it. Whenever you're a go-getter, you're in charge, you're wanting to do all this stuff, you get yourself there. No one wants to hang out, right? No one wants to just bullshit, right? Like, and especially when you're younger. That's like Josh Biesinger, one of my buddies and also partner in the fund. He's in his early 40s, and I mean, has retired, and then was like, all my friends work or they got families.
Yeah,
he goes, I don't want to go hang out with the 72-year-old dudes at the golf course, right? Like he's like, this is not fun at all. Yeah. And so when you take that energy and that work ethic and those habits that you use to get there, you're already ingrained that way where you're not going to spend the majority of your time just hanging out on the beach. It's not it's not realistic.
13-hour days to getting my work done by 7 a.m. Yeah. And I'm like, what the heck do I do now? Like, I'm going to run my wife off because she's tired of hearing, So it turned into breaking my brain and seeing these bigger deals happen. I started doing the bigger deals. Now I sell or finance the bigger deals, and it's just growing and growing and growing. I'm trying to do less deals, but bigger profit. But it's still hard. Like you got to turn. So I have to say no more often than I say yes. But there's always someone else. There's always a deal out there. So that's kind of what it is. It's very similar. But just larger, less deals. Like at one time I was selling 9 parcels of land a week, and that's
Mm-hmm.
just too much. Like that's just way too much. It's just, you don't have to do that many. And now that I'm selling one a month, I make a lot more.
So let's talk about that, right? Like, so you went from the volume and because you took Podolsky's model, right? And that's how you learned and you saw their stuff, right? And it was buy this stuff, 300% rate of return or
Yeah.
better,
Yeah.
right? Like
300%.
all good things,
Yeah.
all great things. The thing is with it, what you've learned is like through that process, as far as the product that you're using, it takes a lot of advertising. It takes a
Yeah.
lot of follow up calls. It takes a lot of systems
Yep.
to sell that stuff. I mean, let's not kid
Yeah.
ourselves, right? Like
It was. I had
5
2
acres in
virtual.
Castilla is not.
Oh my gosh. I don't even want to hear that county right now. So I had, I think, almost 50 notes in Costilla County, Colorado. Almost
Mm-hmm.
50 people paying me payments. We've taken back over 60% of that. So just call it. I think I took back about 30 parcels of land back now in the past 12 months, and I haven't been working to sell it because it takes a lot of work to sell those lower end deals. And don't get me wrong, I am blessed for it, but now I prefer the realtor sell them. So I'm about to offload a bunch of them to a realtor. So that took so much time. So, but that replaced 2 virtual assistants in the
Yep.
Philippines, 2 full-time virtual assistants, 2 salespeople, plus multiple subscriptions. Land.com, 12. I think I was paying 1,500 a month.
Oh yeah.
When I cancel with them,
Oh,
they charge me.
they just jumped mine up another $200. I'm
Yeah,
just
I
like, what?
canceled it. I
Yeah.
canceled it, and they were pissed. They tried to sue me because I extended the contract, and I said, "Well, you extended the contract, and you talked to my virtual assistant that's contract worker. They had no ability to buy my company." Um,
Yeah.
so, long story short, stop paying that. Land Moto, Land Century, blah blah, all these subscriptions. Like I complete Land Hub, we canceled it. And I got rid of 4 employees and got rid of like 8 subscriptions. Now the realtors sell them and we're way more profitable. And I don't have to like answer all these questions. The realtors, if they don't go out and sell this land, they don't get paid.
So let's talk about that. So what is your kind of price point that you're working on those right now, right? Like once a month kind of
Yeah.
stuff, right? What's kind of your price point by
Yeah.
market value? Are you still mailing all this stuff? Are you using other stuff? Like what are
Yeah.
you doing right now to Brent?
So I'll start with the price point first. So generally
Mm-hmm.
I'm buying anywhere from 100 to about 175,000. I'm selling anywhere from 225 to about 300,000.
Okay.
What I've found, if I stay below 300,000, it moves fairly quickly.
Yep.
Another reason why I'm in that price range is because that's what I can comfortably afford, and or
Yep.
I have lenders that will pay for that all day long. Maybe when I get a lender that's got a couple million, I'll jump up to what you're doing and
Mm-hmm.
buy ranches and turn them into pastures.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that sounds like a lot of work actually to me. So maybe I won't.
Which is fine too. That's the
Yeah.
cool thing about it.
Or
There
I'll
are
partner with you.
nearly a million ways
Yeah.
from doing giant entitlement deals, doing development deals on $100 million projects, to buying $800 pieces of dirt in Valencia County, New Mexico.
Yeah. No.
That's what's
Yeah.
cool about it.
That's true. You can. And what's crazy is like I'm not bashing it. My first land deal I bought for $285 and sold it to a realtor the next week for 5,000. The second one I bought for $500 and sold it on Craigslist like within a week for 5,000 as well. But that one was on up 500 down, so I got my money back out of the deal and 400 a month. That was my first passive income note, and the third one was with a bank. 44 acres next to Schriever Air Force Base in Colorado. Got it under contract for 25 grand, and I didn't know what it was worth. So I was like, I'm just going to mark it up 14,000. So I went and put signs all over there, all over the place, 30 signs that said 44 acres, 38K, and my phone number. I sold it that day, and I got these crazy higher offers afterwards. Actually, it was a guy from Texas. He wanted to run Corriente cattle on it. I
Team
didn't.
Roper?
Yeah, I bet you all those cows died, honestly. I didn't think about it at the time. I was just so stoked I was going to make 14 grand. But I had Corriente cattle in Okeechobee, Florida, and at the time, and I told someone about that, and they're like, "Those cows are going to die. This is Colorado." But he moved, like he was so happy to buy this land for me, And I got a $14,000 higher offer the next day than what we had shaken hands and agreed on. I called this man. I called one of my other coaches, Cody Hoffine, because I was at such a crossroads. I was like, what do I do? Like, that extra money would just be life changing right now. I thought it would be anyways. And
Well, it would have been at the time.
at
It
the
would have
time,
changed your life at the time.
at
Absolutely.
the time, at the time, that would have been earth shattering. And Cody goes, I think you know what to do, Brent. So I was like, I was hoping you'd have better advice than that. So shout out to Cody Hoffine for keeping me on the right path, because I might have, sold out. You don't want to sell your soul and inherit the world, because we all have to answer to our maker one day.
Yes, sir.
So I called that nice Texas gentleman, and I said, listen, I know we agreed on a price. We shook hands. I got a $14,000 higher offer. What do you think if we just split that 14 grand? I'll give you 7 grand for just meet me on the side of the road. We'll part ways. He said, no, we had a deal. I want the land. And
My God, this is Texas. You shook my hand. You looked me in the eye. We're doing the deal. Yep.
Yes, sir. We're not in Texas. This is Colorado.
Yeah.
So I grunted and I said, fine. Can you close this week? And he did. I made 14 grand and life was changed. And I just kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And they got bigger and better. And then it's like I did like a $77,000 assignment fee. I sold my contract. I know you don't like doing this, but I literally got a duplex lot under contract. And I'm actually going to hopefully do another deal with this land seller many years later. He's got buku's other land. But I sold that contract, made $77,000 assignment fee, never even saw the land. I don't even think it was in Colorado at the time. Jen actually worked that deal, my acquisition manager. She's been with me since 2016. Long story short, I was like, I need to hire a coach because there's some things I'm missing. That's when I went and hired the Land Geek, and I did their one-on-one. I went through all their one-on-one and all that.
So, but you'd already been doing a bunch of deals before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just haphazardly making a ton of mistakes. And, if anybody wants to see some of the mistakes I made, I have a due diligence checklist. Can I give something free?
Yeah, man. Do whatever.
Yeah. So it was like 14 things. Like I bought unbuildable, not accessible, landlocked, holes in the ground, quit claim deeds, like treasurer's deeds, all these issues that I had to work through. I wasn't doing.
I bought a mining claim. It was great.
Yeah, I wasn't doing title searches or getting title insurance on any of this stuff. Pure stupidity. And I knew better. I was a real estate agent at one time. I already owned like 6 or 7 rentals at the time. I just got so overwhelmed with the quick, fast success. I got a little cocky and arrogant. So if anybody wants to get my due diligence or my land buying roadmap, go to thelandsharks.com/DD. It'll ask you for your email. Just wait 30 seconds and it'll be in your inbox.
Sweet. Awesome. But yeah, I mean, that's part of why you have, and that's why you pay for coaching, for whatever that is because it allows you not to deal with that, or at least if you're smart enough, you don't make the same mistakes that someone else has already made.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's almost like, I've got 2 teenagers now, or actually one's not 13 yet, but you're like, oh, well, this is the way you do this. And they could care less, right? Like trying to talk to them. Like I almost went bananas last night, right? Like I was just like, I'm about to headbutt both of you right now but if it's coming from someone else,
yeah,
they listen, right? But the whole point is if you can listen to what your coach is saying, or it doesn't have to be a paid coach, but your mentor, right? Someone who's already been to the mountain, or at least halfway up while you're just at the bottom, be smart enough to learn from their mistakes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like be smart enough to learn from their mistakes. Anyone can do this. There's enough free information now on YouTube and everything else. You can do it. The thing is, we all know this, like, how do we learn as well, whether you're training a horse or you're training a person, like it takes direction, it takes time, it takes repetition, right? All of these things happen whenever, that's why you invest in courses. That's why you invest in having a mentor that's already been there, right? Like we used to take what was it called? When you had a blacksmith and then you had someone that worked underneath you, apprenticeships, right?
Apprentice, yeah.
That's how you learned, right? Every day you're in there working with Joe Smith, the blacksmith, right? And in 3 years after your time, you then have the skill set to do whatever that was, right? Now with the internet, the scalability of this, right? Now Brent doesn't have to be one-on-one with you, right? If you want more detailed stuff, you can do that. But if you want more, you can take all the like basics and do it. But the thing is you really need to, in order for you to speed up your path to get to where you want to be, that's where the coaching, that's where the due diligence, that's where all these things come across. And that's something that, like when I first got started, like you said, you're putting money on a credit card, right? Like for coaching or for a program or whatever. We've all been there.
Yeah.
We've all been there, right? Like I remember like putting out bandit signs back in the day for houses, and I was like ripping off cardboard, putting tape around it, and then writing on it, right? And doing it that way. Like we've all freaking been there.
Oh my gosh. I sold a couple parcels of land with cardboard boxes. So the Army, I was moving so much with the military. I had so many boxes in my house. I bought a piece of land like 3 streets over, and it wasn't buildable. It was like 4,500 square foot, and you needed 5,000 square foot. So it was like only valuable for someone to like build a shed if they live next door. So I put a cardboard box sign on that property, and of course, when it rains, your sign's garbage. But, that sign sold it. A free box, I had to buy the stake, from Home Depot.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. But like that's where you have to have that why behind you to push up through all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
We've all been there. No, or at least very few of us got into any of this stuff and been like, oh, well, yeah, I got to have $1 million bankroll that we can just roll with, right?
Yeah.
And my family came from doing all this stuff. They still weren't like, oh shit, Trevor, yeah, go ahead, here you go. No, that's not how it works. So what are you doing? What are your terms on these better properties, right? Like you're obviously, if they want to come buy them cash, you'll sell them cash. You're not
all day long.
You're not going to bitch about that. Are you still selling the majority of them on owner financing?
It's about 50-50. Like for instance, I got 7 lots in Orlando, Florida. I was like, oh man, we're going to have 7 notes. And a builder came in, gave me a low ball offer. I was still going to make $70,000 profit after paying the realtor. I said, he's like, the realtor comes back. He's like, I don't know if you're going to take this. It's way lower than what we're asking. I was like, run with it. Like we got an offer in a week. He's like, really? I was like, heck yeah, man, there's profit in that. Let's do it. The realtor didn't know how much, but yeah, I'll take cash. I only put one price, and it says, seller will finance, because I want to get any and all offers drummed up as quick as possible.
What are your terms right now that you're kind of offering, right?
Yeah. We're so I got another offer on some lots that had been sitting actually for a couple months. This was a weird situation. It's been sitting for like 4 months now, and I was starting to get a little worried. But we got an offer the other day for $75,000 down. We're asking for $110 for this lot. So basically, we're going to take the $75,000 down. I'm going to finance the rest. Was that 85, 95, 105? So 35 grand. Public math scares me. So I use my fingers to count still. So 35 grand at 12% interest with a 30-year mortgage. That will allow someone to break up the payments, and then we'll have a 7-year balloon on that to where they either got to pay it off, or we're going to charge them a fee and refinance them. We call it a loan modification. We'll reset the clock. Why? Why would I do that? Because a 30-year mortgage is pretty much front-end loaded for the first 7 years. It's like almost all interest. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the terms. I usually shoot for 12%. And it's easy now because it's like at one time I didn't charge any interest. I was just happy if I 3X'd my money on those smaller lots. But the cool thing is, like, I've got another loan. It's at $200,000 at 12% interest. I'm going to collect a fortune in taxes, interest. That payment, I'm getting over $2,000 a month on that deal. So
But you're amortizing out to 30 years in order
Mhm.
to keep the interest down or the overall payment down,
Yep.
right? The interest never goes away.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they're gonna cash you out. They're gonna default. They're gonna sell it to somebody else. They're gonna do something else like that. I mean, and again, we none of us have been in this business for 30 years, right?
No.
But
No.
it doesn't happen. Like, it doesn't happen in houses, right? Like, it
Yeah.
fucking never happens,
They never go
right?
30
Like,
years. There's a
no.
reason why the 30-year mortgage is front-end loaded interest, is because the banks knew that people move every 5 to 7 years or sell. So they're like, well, let's get the majority of the interest in the first 5 to 7 years. I had a deal where the guy paid me for 5 years and only paid down the mortgage. I forget the numbers. We'd have to look at an amortization schedule, but I was doing an example the other day. This guy was going to pay $96,000 worth of payments over that 7 years, but it only paid the balance down about $5,000. That's screwed up, right? That's the power of compounding
That's
interest.
why. That's why it's fun being a bank.
That's right. That's why they're the biggest, prettiest buildings in every city and every state.
100%. Welcome to Wells Fargo downtown, right? Welcome to the Chase building.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, absolutely.
They use your
100%.
money for free, which is a checking account, and then turn around and let us borrow it for not 6% interest either. If you have a $200,000 mortgage at 6% interest, your payment's going to be based on 6% of that balance you originally took out, which is
Hmm.
$1,200 a month. But if you
Hmm.
pay back that mortgage every single month on time, never refinance, never sell, over 360 payments, 30 years, you're going to pay back over $420,000. That's $220,000 in interest. That's not 6%.
No, no. Well, it is annualized, right? Like
Yeah.
that. That's the time value of money, right? And that's the stuff that nobody teaches us as we're growing up because most of the world doesn't have a clue. But
Yep.
once you start running a financial calculator, and once you start looking around and understanding that everything around you is two assets, it's the physical asset and it's the paper behind it, and you go, "Oh lordy."
Yeah.
It's insane, right? Whether it's the house I'm sitting in right now, the cars out there, like all the stuff, like you've got two assets everywhere you go. Brent, have you worked at all on using your UPB on some of these deals as far as like lines of credit with banks or anything else like that? This is a big deal. I did a podcast a while back with Spencer Anderson out of Mississippi, and that's what they were talking about doing. And again, there's pros and cons to it, right? You always have debt coverage, that you're going to have to pay and things like this. But is that something that you've done at all?
I don't know what UPV is. Will you?
Unpaid balance.
No. I've never. I don't have a line of credit on my house. I have a line of credit on one of my rental properties. We're about to close
Mm-hmm.
that out. I use either my own money or the seller will finance me the land, and I'll come up with a down payment with my own money and regular people's money. Like my neighbor,
Yep.
a plumber, my in-laws, anybody that wants to make anywhere from 9 to 12% on their money, secured by real estate. And generally, I buy it at a discount.
At a
So
very good basis, right?
yeah,
Yep.
I
Yep.
always want to buy it, and I don't do value add, so that would be even better if I did value add. But I always want to buy it at such a discount where if I'm like asleep at the wheel, we'll still arrive home safely, type thing. Like if the world goes to crap, like I'm generally
Yep.
getting it like 60 cents on the dollar or less. So it's like a lot can go wrong, and we
Yep.
still get our money back. So.
So, Brent, are you still doing as far as your marketing? Are you just sending your land offer letters? Or are you doing other stuff as well?
Yeah, I love sending a land offer letter called the LOL, and it's a direct offer for the land. I'll follow it up with a postcard, and I can give those land
Yeah,
offer
no, go
letters.
ahead.
And
I mean, literally,
yeah,
guys, if you've never done a deal, never sent them whatever it is, like it's a one-page hitter, and you will buy land by
yeah,
mailing this out to enough people.
yeah. If anybody wants a copy of the land offer letter or the postcard, go to thelandsharks.com/postcard. That's for the postcard. Or thelandsharks.com/LOL, and that's land offer letter. Or laugh out loud. I just got a deal that's worth $100,000 for $60,000, and the guy signed it, sent it back. Like, this happens. Like, if you send that to enough people and like, how do we price out the land? Well, go to Redfin and see what it's selling for and send it close to others. Well, how do I do this in Texas? Because it's a non-disclosure state. We'll find a good real estate agent that's in land sales. Like, if they want business, they'll work with you. And then another thing that's working really well for me right now, Trevor, is I used to be a home buyer. I know the stress is involved with buying houses. I lost a lot of money on a couple houses, so I'm not perfect. I got a little bit too big for my britches, like my grandmother would say. I was really feeding my ego. Again, I had to fill my time with something, and I started buying commercial and industrial and apartment complexes. And one 19-plex I bought sat for 5 years. Me and Mason bought another one. It's 9 unit, and it's been sitting for 2 years. Like, things like that. Like, sometimes you bite off a little bit more than you could chew.
Yeah.
And then those interest rates went up while we were renovating 7 houses and building 2 with Dan Havercost plus our 9 unit. It's just like, so
Dan and Mason are terrible at basketball. I don't care what anybody says. I'm way better than them. I haven't played since 8th grade, but I'm way better than them. I don't care what anybody says. So I met them in Colorado Springs the other day. So we played basketball and they beat the piss out of me.
Really?
So. Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
I can barely dribble, dude.
I can dribble my shirt. Yeah, I'm not a basketball. So I tried out in 7th grade, and that was embarrassing. But
I played football. If I can't tackle somebody, I'm probably not going to be very good at it. So.
I couldn't catch in football, and I wasn't fast. The only thing I do was explode off the line. So, yeah. Anyhow.
Anyway, but yeah. So anyway, you've done a little bit of everything.
Yeah, and I was just getting at I lost money on these houses. I don't even know where I was going with this. But the land worked. Oh, here, yeah. I was going to tell you about the thing that I'm getting deals from right now too, and in addition to mail. And I really break this down. I think it's an art. I don't think there's a science to this, but I talk to house buyers and I say, hey, I want to be your number one land buyer. I want to be your easy button. And they send me land deals all the time. And I tell them what I can pay. And sometimes I got to go renegotiate with the seller, but it's like these things are served to me on a silver platter.
That's a great way, guys, especially if you're outside of a metro area, right? Or, I mean, it doesn't have to be that way, but if you're in these certain areas, you can actually come in and Google sell my house fast Jacksonville, right? And find all these wholesalers that are in your area. I'd probably make sure, I mean, you can do it any way you want to, because there's so many virtual guys now, so many, folks that are making all these calls. You call them and say, hey, man, I know that y'all do tons of marketing, yada, yada. I'd like to be a buyer for your land leads that come through. You don't have to do anything. All you're going to do is you're going to call me and you're going to give me an APN number and the asking price, right? And I'm going to tell you if it's a deal or not. Mm-hmm. And if I'm wanting to buy it, I'll tell you exactly what price there need to be. Because here's the thing about it. You don't make money in land buying it 20% off like you do in houses.
No.
You don't.
No.
You can.
If the land is like $800,000, maybe.
Maybe, right? Yeah. But that's where I've come across a lot of folks that are like, oh shit, well, this thing is, it's worth $1 million, right? That's what the realtor told me. Of course, the realtor's a house realtor, doesn't have a clue, right? Yeah. And then it's worth $1 million, and so if I can sell it for 900, I should make $100,000 off this deal. Wrong, ain't gonna be how it works out, right?
If you want to really know what it's worth, just like tell that realtor, say, hey, if you bought this and you wanted to sell it in 30 days, what would you list it for if you had your own personal money in it? You want the get her done now price, like the no BS. And that makes them think a little differently. They think they're playing with their money now rather than yours, because they don't care about your bills. They care about a realtor, and it's nothing wrong. I'm not. Yeah, I am making fun of them. I used to be a realtor, so
I've got my license.
There you go. I get they know 6% of any number.
We'll see how that works out now, right? With all the new stuff coming down with NAR and the litigation and everything else like that. So you're still doing land, you're still sending lots of letters, right? And postcards, lots of mail. That's your primary way that you're doing it. And then you're also networking with other well, obviously folks in your group, in your network, things like this. And then you're also working with wholesalers.
Yeah.
So that allows you, how much deal flow are you having right now? Right.
Yeah, I say I want to do one a month, but it usually keeps me anywhere from one to three a month. I think in the last 4 weeks I sold one parcel per week, and I shouldn't say I sold. One of my realtors sold it,
Yeah.
or we assigned it. We got one closing today, about a $95,000 assignment fee, and I did that with a partner. And yeah, he found a smoking hot deal. We were in the process of buying it. We were supposed to close last Friday, but we sent out something called neighbor letters. And be careful about doing this. Like, you want to make sure your seller knows like what's going on, because like you want that.
That's
seller
why I
to
don't
know.
like assignments, Brent. That's
We
why I don't
weren't
like assignments.
we weren't planning on assigning this thing. But we tell the seller, like, listen, we don't hold on to these. We end up selling them, but the neighbor's like hot on it, so he's closing today. So we basically extended our closing 5 days or so to sell to the neighbor. Then I didn't have to buy it. We won't make as much, but here's the thing: it's like it's an infinite return because there's no money out of our pocket.
Do we want to go down this? Do we want to go down this rabbit hole? Do we
I
want to
should
go
have
down this
known.
rabbit hole? Let's go down the rabbit hole and why I don't like assignments. Right. Most of the time, you're not going to assign a property to. You don't wholesale to retail. Right? Are you wholesaling houses to retail buyers? No. You're wholesaling
No.
houses to other investors, correct? Obviously, I'm not talking about novations. I'm not talking about land contract. I'm not talking about any of this shit, right? Are you usually wholesaling houses to end-use buyers?
Yeah, that's what I prefer. So I started buying them and putting them on the MLS when I was doing them, because you make
but that's what I'm saying. I just want to, and I'm not saying you. I'm just saying, like, you don't wholesale to retail.
Oh yeah, yes,
right?
true.
Like, you don't wholesale it. You close it and then you sell it to them, right? You don't assign to retail buyers, right? I mean, that's the whole reason that they do novations,
they have
the
no clue.
installment, whatever the hell you want to talk about, right? This is where land is especially hard because it's not as liquid. This is where you coming in and trying to put a deal under contract and then blast it out to 8 trillion people all the time on Facebook. And you know this is what happens all the damn time, Brent. And then you're upset when the seller finds out about it.
Yeah. You gotta make sure that seller is really cool with it in the beginning, and sometimes they're not. It's just a conversation, like, hey, Mr. Seller, you don't mind if I'm gonna make a little profit on this land, do you? And here's my strategy. 99% of the time, I now buy it.
Yep.
Because I'm in the position to do that. I've assigned many a contracts, and it's always a hairy situation. It's way better to just take it down and breathe, especially
1,000,000%. And then you can decide what you want to do with it. And here's the cool thing about it, especially if you're starting out with a $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 piece of dirt, right? The cool thing with starting out with that is it's more expensive than the super cheap stuff. So you can still hire a realtor, right? Especially if you're buying it 50 cents on the dollar. Mm-hmm. The cool thing is then you can go to your dad, uncle, banker, cousin's cousin, right? That may have some money and be like, listen, I've got my due diligence report from Brent, right? I've got this thing under contract. I've got it over at the title company. Would you mind lending on this? I will give you a 12% rate of return.
There you go.
Based on the time frame that we have on this thing. And the worst thing that happens is it takes me a year to sell it, and congratulations, you have it. Yeah. Right? Whatever that is.
Yeah.
And that right there allows you to sleep. It allows you to hire a real estate agent that's going to get the top dollar for that thing, right? It allows you to do all kinds of stuff versus going, dear God, if one more person calls this seller, they're going to lose their shit, and there's nothing I can do about it. And I just wasted all this time, effort, and energy to try to assign this deal for infinite returns when I've already got a good deal, right?
Yeah.
Or even better, come in and be like, hey, I've got this thing for 50, Mr. Uncle, whatever. It's worth 100. I've already got all my comps. I've got my due diligence. I will sell it to you for 70 today. And you can make $30,000 on your property. And most people have no idea how to even do that, right?
No.
So you can assign it to your own end buyer,
Yeah,
right?
that's
That
true.
you know, like, trust, knows, like, and trust you.
Yeah, and if you ask enough people to do a deal with you, most people will stop at one, maybe two or three because they feel like they're needy or they're asking or they're begging. How do I know that? Because I was that
For
person,
sure.
and I had already made a fortune in real estate, and in the land of the blind, the one-eyed's king. Like most people have never done a real estate transaction, and I've done over 300, and I still, well, not anymore. I used to feel a little awkward. Probably that ended about a year ago when I was like, you know what? Like I'm being selfish. Like I'm not including people on these deals and they want to be part of it. They're not willing to go out and buy 8 courses a year like I do, and take the steps and do all these things. They want to make a return on their investment because they have a full-time business or whatever. They're attorney, doctor, my neighbor wants to loan me money. Like he's a dermatologist. He doesn't have time to go do real estate. So I felt like I was being selfish by not including them. So it was a mindset shift. But yeah, you call enough people or talk to enough people, they will do the deal with you so much safer than assigning your contract. But if everyone starts somewhere, and
Yep.
the way I learned how to have these conversations with these sellers is because I've looked stupid before in front of these sellers because they're like, "Oh, you didn't tell me you're going to sign the contract. Why is it on Facebook?" So we had the conversation. Do you mind if I make a little profit on this land because I don't do this for free? And they're like, "Oh yeah, yeah." It's almost like, "Duh, you're going to make some money." Cool. I said, "Well, I'm kind of like a guerrilla marketer, so I will be buying this in the next 30 days." But what I do is I pre-market. This is how I can buy so many properties. I put it on Craigslist and Facebook. I talk to realtors. We do all kinds of stuff to market. So you might even see someone drive by the land. Do you have any issue with that, Mr. Seller? And if they have the slightest issue with it, it's like, no problem. We won't do it because I know this is a smoking hot deal. And I
But you
will,
make sure it's a smoking hot deal,
yeah,
right? That's the key to that. Don't try to buy. And we talked about this multiple times. It's either a hell yes or a hell no,
yeah,
especially in this market, right? It's a hell yes or a hell no. And if you're not so excited, like, dear good lordy, please don't don't change your mind, Mr. Seller. I've got everything to the title company. As soon as I need to get this done, it's done, right? Like
yeah.
if you're not feeling that way about it, don't do it.
Yeah, and that's that like that Florida deal. We call it a realtor, and the realtor reached out to the seller, and it's like, what the heck? Why would you do that? Well, I just wanted to make sure you actually had it under contract. What? You could have asked for the contract. So I told my partner and I were both like, we will close this thing in the next 5 days. As soon as the title company is able to close it, we're closing on it. Like,
Yep.
because now it's like this realtor's like rattled the cage. Um, so thank God the seller is cool. Tons of communication. Also have a nice earnest money deposit. Show that you're real. Like if you're trying to offer $5 and $10 or $100, like I did that for many years. And
Yep.
sometimes I wouldn't even send it to the title company. You're making a big mistake because you don't have a binding contract. You don't have a earnest money deposit or good faith. So if God forbid someone does try to come around you like this realtor that tried to snake my deal, and let me tell you, everyone there's a bunch of great investors out there. There's a bunch of great realtors out there. Sometimes people just make stupid mistakes.
100%. 100%. Right. And they'll say, well, it's because I was protecting my client, right?
Yeah.
Or one way or other. But again, that has nothing to do with that, right? Like it's anyway, yeah, that's kind of BS in my opinion. So anyway, how many right now, Brent, how many offers are you sending? And I want this because I
Yeah.
want people to hear this, right? How
Yeah.
many
Yeah.
offers are you sending in a month to get a deal or two or
Yeah.
kind of wherever you're at right now?
I consistently send anywhere from 400 to 500 letters a week. So just call it 2,000 a month is
Okay.
about how many we send. Sometimes we'll switch. Well, I'll get an easy month and it'll be a postcard. But
Yep.
I like to do the work on the front end because I don't really want a lot of phone calls. My acquisition manager travels all over the world. He doesn't want a lot of phone calls. And really, this is a lifestyle business. But at one time, I was sending piles of mails. I had 3 cold callers. I had pay per click, and that was just too much. It
Yep.
was like we were doing deals just to pay staff.
Yep.
So very limited. About just call it 2,000 a month.
And that's to do one deal a
Yeah.
month or what, like what is that kind of looking like?
On average, every 1,100 of those LOLs that I send out in the last 6 months gets me one land deal that will net me at least $10,000 net profit before seller financing it and making any interest.
Gotcha. So that's a real number, guys. Like, and so what does that
It's real. I
cost
just made it
you?
up. No, I'm just
What?
kidding.
60% of all statistics are made up on the spot, I think.
Yeah.
What is that costing you right now a month in marketing, right?
Yeah, so I spent about 80 cents a letter. So every 1,000 letters was at $800. So
Okay.
my marketing is, my average cost is about $1,500 a month.
Okay. So let's what is that divided, 10,000. Can't do the math though, that's out of my head either.
Almost a 10x return.
Yeah.
But that's what's really cool is those networking with those other wholesalers. That's additional deals that cost me nothing.
No, I'm just saying bare minimum, right? Guys, like so $1,500 a month, right? You're pulling your data, you're doing some things, and so you cost a little bit there, right? And you're going to spend some time, and you get the Land Sharks course, or you get another course, or one way or other to understand how to do some of this stuff, or go on to YouTube and understand how to comp stuff. That is a very low barrier of entry to be able to turn this into a full-time gig over a year or so.
Oh my goodness, yeah. And me and my wife, if you wanted even cheaper, send out postcards. Those are like 47 cents a letter.
But those are more work, right? Those are more work on the back end.
Yeah.
You spend your time. That's what he was talking about, guys. And again, I know a lot of y'all understand this, but like it's a good reminder. You either do the work on the front end or you do the work on the back end, right? Whenever you send out a postcard, you're just like, hey, I'd love to buy your land. You have not anchored them. You have not told them anything, right? The cool thing with a lot of an offer or a range letter or whatever the new special thing that you're sending, right? Like no one cares, right? Whether it's a text message, a smoke signal, no one gives a shit. Like that automatically, within some reason, will cut down on the number of phone calls you have, just like Brent was saying. And so he's more about, I would much rather do one deal or two deals, right? One from networking and another one from sending less than $2,000 worth of marketing and do $20,000 in profit a month, right? And be able to kind of chill versus you may be able to do $40,000 in 1 month, but you're going to be on the phone a lot and you're going to be doing a ton of underwriting on all these potential deals.
Yeah, I want to go on trips and surf and hunt and all these things. Like next week we'll be gone all next week with the kids. We bought a motorhome. We traded in our fifth wheel, bought a motorhome. We're going all over the place. And I don't want to be taking phone calls, trying to drive that RV and kids aren't in the back buckled up, like weird stuff like that. Like I'm not I don't want to be on the phone. And what's cool is there's a bunch of notes too. We've sold a lot of this land on seller financing that are still paying us every month. So it gives you those little times in life to breathe and take time. Or, I just had a friend that had to take off for a month, just to go take care of his dad. And he had the passive income to do it. So this just prepare for tomorrow. I don't think it says anywhere in the Bible about retiring, but it's nice to take those little breaks. So what Tim Ferriss would call the little mini
little micro retirements or whatever they call them. Yep. Yeah, for sure. Well, that's what we did last year. We spent an entire month in Breckenridge, Colorado, right? We just did an Airbnb for a month, right? And just did, we went to Rockies games. We went fishing. We went, I did that marathon, Leadville Marathon. I did this, did that, right? Like those right there is perfect for us, especially with kids, right? Like this next year, I'm not going to be able to do that because my oldest starts high school football and we got to be here. Yep. They're what do you call it? Voluntary workouts, but they're mandatory.
Yeah, I remember those. 2 a day.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. You don't have to be here, but you better, right? And that's okay. That's fine. But to be able to do that, right? Like to be able to take that month or 2 months or whatever the hell it is and go do that is, in my opinion, the best way to live life. Yeah. We're no longer exchanging time for money.
That's right.
That's the whole key to that. So, Brent, we're coming up on 55 minutes. What are you seeing towards like the next year or two with your business? What do you think is going to be going on in the land space, right? Like we've got a lot of these now, the wholesaling Inc. house guys that are calling on land. I think a lot of this is in all these guys, right? Not just wholesaling Inc., but like all these wholesalers, there for a while, they're like, hell, no one wants to sell a house. Now we can go to land.
Yeah.
A lot of them are figuring out that land is not a completely different asset class, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot different game. The turnover is a hell of a lot slower. So I think a lot of those people are going to go. What do you think is going to happen in the next year or two with what we're doing, right? Like everyone now wants to do entitlements. Everyone wants to do value adds.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, what are you thinking?
4 words. I have no clue. Yeah, I'll tell you what I'm seeing though right now is a lot of these house buyers are like, they're picking up drinking. A lot of them are freaking out because, we call those the sleeper loans. A lot of these guys have these loans that are less than 4% interest, and they don't want to move. They can't afford to move. And the prices still haven't come down, which freaking baffles me beyond like, I have no clue how that's even a thing.
You and Jerome Powell both are wondering like, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's just like how are the prices not coming down because money has gotten more expensive. So if we took away lending on everything, the prices of everything should come down. In theory, of my thoughts, and there's not much lending on land. I know there's ways to get lending on the way more expensive land, especially the
100%.
stuff you deal in. But then you come up with 20 or 50% down. That's one reason why there's such a market for us as far as in the paper game. This is like such a great opportunity. But I'm seeing a lot of these house buyers like, I haven't bought a house in weeks. I got to figure out something different. And the way I move my land fast is I price it right. I price it for less than everyone else because I get it for less than everyone else. And I offer financing as well. So you gotta make it so sweet. It's like it's to be like what Alex Hermosi says. It's like got to be $100 million offer.
Yeah. So, and I know again, if I had $10 million today, like all I would do would be buy as many and turn them into notes as humanly possible, right? That's all I would do.
And you don't need 10 million. I mean, start with 500,000.
Yeah. Well, but you know what I'm saying? Like people are like, oh, well, you do subdivides, you do value add stuff, you do everything else like this, which I do. But again, if I could just pick one thing, it would be just the paper side, because you see the flips and the value add and all this other stuff. It's all done. That's all done out in the open. But what the actual the stuff that's done in the shade, like blots out the sun and then some, which is the paper game. Mm-hmm. And until you understand that and you understand the volume there, right? Like just to give you an example, and this is off the deal, but like I rewatched The Big Short the other day, right? I love The Big Short and Boomerang, the follow-up book, right? Michael Lewis and everything else. Well, I watched the movie the other day with my wife, and she's like, "This is insane." Yeah. When they're talking about how much is in paper, she goes, "I had no idea." Yeah. I was like, "Now do you understand what I've been talking about, right? Just in the land space." Yeah. Right. And so anyway, and of course I can't ever half-ass anything. I always have to try to go to Wall Street and build my own market. I have to do all this other stuff, which again, maybe it's my potential downfall, but
it's that red beard, man.
Yeah. It's two-tone. It's blonde and red, all the way, and a little gray. Three-tone, I guess.
I got three-tone now, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that good quality assets, owner finance, will never go out of style forever. No, it's been that way forever, right? Like, I mean, like the very beginning of this conversation was like, it's the original business, right? Yeah. Owner financing land. Yeah. That's just, I mean, it's the original business.
Do the simple stuff. We don't have to overcomplicate this. The reason why businesses go out of business is they get overcomplicated,
That's simple. I'll take that to heart for sure, Brent, right? Like that's one of these things where, yeah, keep it simple, stupid, right? But again, that's also the part where I'm so messed up in the head where I'm like, I have to be the absolute best that I could ever be, right? And understand like, hey, this is what I've got to do because I promised myself that I'm going to give blah, 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 blah. Whether or not that's just mental masturbation or I don't know what the hell it is. So anyway, I don't know. But all right, we're coming up on an hour. How can people get a hold of you, follow you, do whatever, look at the Land Sharks course or whatever you want to do?
Yeah, go to thelandsharks.com, fill out the application, schedule a call. Let me know that you came from Trevor's podcast. So,
Do I get an affiliate link?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, that's an inside joke, guys. Like, that's an inside joke. I always bust Brent Bowers balls for affiliate links.
Yeah, and I don't give discounts ever for the Land Sharks. Actually, that's a lie. I did give one the other day, but there was a reason, and I can tell you why if you schedule a call. But if you let me know that you came from the dirt road to wealth, you will absolutely get Trevor's discount, and I'll make sure I send a little jingle to Trevor to keep him doing this podcast, which is so amazing. So, yeah, man, absolutely, this has been a blast. And then also, I'm on social media. Like I'm constantly, I put out so many videos. Listen, you could learn how to do this, just like Trevor said, on my YouTube channel, my Instagram channel, my TikTok channel. I don't know how to communicate on TikTok, so if you want to send me a message, send me on Instagram.
But here's the deal, guys, and this is something like people have always asked me about putting out courses and doing this and things like that. Like the course is fine. It's the group, right? It's the Dans and the Masons and these guys and you know all the people that are in the group that actually bring the value, right?
Oh yeah, we got some amazing guys, Ross,
and gals,
Josh.
yeah, awesome
Lana.
gals. Like all these people that have been around and Ross and everyone else, like everyone has a different view. Yeah. Everyone has a different idea. And the cool thing is that, you know, the collective genius of everyone, even if you don't use it for whatever you think you're going to, that's the way to really build your, just like Brent was talking to me before this, right? Like just a different way of looking at things can change your life.
Yeah, the power of the mastermind that Napoleon Hill talked about in Think and Grow Rich. That's it right there. Every single Tuesday and Monday when I do these support calls, like I've had people say, oh, man, why are you still doing those? Like you should have replaced yourself. Like I get so much value out of those, just hearing those wins and like, you know, Pat Drury doing his first land deal and, you know, Lana and just people quitting their job and providing for their parents. And like, I get ideas and it's truly inspiring. Like, and crazy thing is like, I don't have to pay anything for it except for a couple hours of time each week.
Yep. Well, and you got plenty of time anyway. You built a lifestyle business anyway, right? I mean, really,
that was the goal.
I mean, that's the whole goal, right? Is to do that where you can build relationships with people that you know, like, and trust, right? That are part of your own tribe that you've built. I mean, I don't know the hierarchy of needs, but like, you know, that's probably the third or fourth up there. I mean, that's pretty damn high, right?
It's darn sure. It fills one of my hierarchy of needs. That's for sure. I'll do land deals and like I can always fall back on doing more if need be, but I enjoy just the coaching side of it and seeing people win because I'm winning too. And I do deals from it. You know, it's like, it's crazy. But anyhow, yeah, great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, dude. I'm glad you can have you on. Like I said, guys, don't forget, do good by doing good, right? That's the key to all this stuff. And it ripples in ways that you don't even understand. So have a great day. We will talk to you later.